Welcome to the North Carolina Department of Education website for exceptional children. In this video, we will explore the history of special education as well as resources available for further research with information pertaining to special education law and information for parents and guardians. In the United States today, all students with disabilities have the right to special education services and a free public education. These children are protected by laws. Students that are classified as having disabilities are afforded accommodations and modifications. Accommodations are related to access of content, while modifications allow for changes to content. No doubt these students benefit greatly from them today. However, this wasn't always the case. It was only with the help with certain advocacy groups. These advocacy groups were usually formed by parents of students with special needs and other members of that community. The advocacy groups lobbied and fought for these children by bringing their plight to the public eye, as well as putting pressure on local and state politicians. Now let's look at a quick outline of events, beginning from the early 1800s that led to the achievements of today. Years ago, most students with disabilities did not attend school. In most cases, they were not accepted to schools. There are exceptions where some parents would have to pay money to get their child into private schools or pay for private tutors. Let's move into the 1850s, where a growing number of isolated schools for students with disabilities were available. These schools were mostly in rural areas, but were moving in the right direction. Moving into the 1880s, where as a country we took a step back for disabled children. Scientist Francis Galton spread the idea of eugenics, which discussed the sterilization of disabled individuals. Individuals with disabilities began being placed in institutions, many of which provided conditions similar to a jail. Moving forward into the 1920s, the good news is that more children were finding their way into public schools, yet almost all were in separate classes and were kept in separate rooms. Next, we move into the 1970s, 20 years after the infamous court case of Brown v. Board of Education, where in 1954 the Supreme Court ruled that segregation by race in schools was unconstitutional. Special education truly started in the right direction in this decade. Laws were put in place for funding special education students. Public Law 94-142 was passed as the foundation of special education. Continuing into the 1990s, where important laws such as IDEA, or IDEA, Individual Disabilities Education Act, of 1990 was passed, and students were granted the right to have access to the general education curriculum. Today, there is a push towards the inclusion movement, which ensures that all students with disabilities have the opportunity to participate with non-disabled general education peers. Along the way to having the best outcome for students with disabilities included court cases. Hudson v. Raleigh states that schools should provide sufficient but not the best possible education for FAPE, or Free Appropriate Public Education Act. Mills v. the Board of Education ruled that schools must provide supplemental services needed to attend schools at no cost to the parent. For more information on parental rights and to stay up to date on special education laws in North Carolina, please visit ec.ncpublicschools.gov and select the Parent Resources tab. Then scroll to the Parent Rights and Responsibilities in Special Education NC Notice of Procedural Safeguards tab and click on it. This notice is available in both English and Spanish. You can also visit www.fsnnc.org for the Family Support Network of North Carolina, as well as www.ecacparencenter.org for additional information on the special education process. Thank you.